right, Quiet on the Set is the documentary series that's currently on Max. It
Yeah.
is about the early days of Nickelodeon
Yeah.
and potentially inappropriate behavior that took place on the set. I have not seen it. Alan has seen the entire series. Alan, what did you think?
Yeah, I like this one. I think obviously it's about Dan Schneider. It's 4 episodes, and I'll admit I've heard a lot of these stories about Dan Schneider for ever since basically the Me Too movement started. But this really digs deep into it.
Now,
Uh,
who is Dan Schneider?
Dan Schneider was he was basically the golden child at Nickelodeon. He did iCarly. He did the all that. He kind of started with all that, making it kind of the kids Saturday Night Live, and he was making a lot of money for Nickelodeon. And with all that money came a lot of power. He had the network basically gave him the keys to the kingdom, and with that power, he basically abused that power. A lot of it, was to play out. You'll see in the series, a lot of it was to play out his kind of sexual fantasies about feet. He had a major feet fetish. The things he did to Ariana Grande is just kind of creepy, and it wasn't, it was like every episode of every show he did had some sexual content in it that he would deny, but you knew it was kind of there. And then he with this power, he just started using it. He started psychologically torturing his cast, his guests, his coworkers. A lot of them quit. A lot of them went into drugs and alcohol. I mean, the guy was just a monster. But that's only part of the problem. There's one episode devoted to basically 3 pedophiles that Nickelodeon had hired and was working, and had like some PA who would escort children around. He'd get to know the kids, and then he'd send them D-pics, basically. And then there was one person known as the Pickle Man. He was a dialect coach that Dan Schneider had hired. And one day the guy was fired for no reason at all and arrested. And it was alleged that he had assaulted one of the cast members in Nickelodeon. But because of everything, no one knew who it was. And in the series here, it was revealed, and in fact, they interviewed him. It was Drake Bell, and Drake Bell was abused often by this guy, and he goes through that whole story, and it is just sad. It is sad that the thing that kept running through my mind while watching this thing is that there are evil people in the world, and it amazes me how far they were able to carry their evil throughout their career. Harvey Weinstein had a long career. Dan Schneider had a long career. And then you hear these stories of people who are alleged to have done these things, who didn't do these things, who seem to get it worse than these guys who actually did it. And it is frustrating to me that that we have the system in place that rewards the villains and basically punishes the innocent sometimes. And this show just shows you that but this whole story basically ended a couple of years ago after the whole Me Too movement.
Right.
And so it's sad that it continues on like this.
Yeah, it's a series that would be difficult for me to watch as a father to a daughter and a son. It is a weird thing. Like, I remember when my kids were that age, and we watched Nickelodeon. It all seemed kind of innocent at the time. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the shows. We didn't watch live action shows as much. My kids were just not so interested in that. They liked the cartoons. Yeah. They liked animation. I found those shows kind of always to be kind of dumb, juvenile humor. I mean, which makes a lot of sense considering the target demo. But the clips that have come out, like the one with, is it Ariana Grande trying to squeeze juice out of a potato?
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. The pickle guy, the clips that have leaked, it's just, this is a show that just would be difficult for me to watch. So I didn't watch it. I I'm happy that you checked it out, Alan. I don't know that it's something that I could watch. And when I kind of see the situation there, like how is there not one person that just said, well, wait. We're dealing with kids and kids have goofy senses
Mhm.
of humor. And that's okay, right? But
Right.
where it went off the rails is this guy kind of out in the open being the way he was.
Yeah.
Seemed just very, very disconcerting.
Well,
Do you
yeah. And again, kids are involved. I mean, you would think that you would be more overly protective when you have a
Right.
show full of kids. I mean, you talk a lot about your time at with Larry Flint and
Yeah.
the protocols and the behavior that was expected of you walking through the offices. And you know, you knew that Larry Flint went over and above trying to keep a professional environment. And
This
that
is in
wasn't
the
happening
early
here.
90s. Yeah. So just
Yeah.
for people that don't know, I wrote comedy and humor for LFP, Larry Flint Publications, which is a Hustler magazine, and way back in the day. But it was so um like, I mean, in like a good way, corporate rules based. This is how you conduct yourself, all that. And you know, we did come up with like wild, weird jokes and whatnot, but that was a completely different audience. Perfect for you to bring it up here as we're talking about this, Alan.
But
So
the thing is that you're
I
in a
got
situation.
ghostinged. I got
Yeah.
ghostinged right there. Just
The point was is that he went above and beyond in terms of he knew the environment
yes.
that his publication created, and he needed a professional environment to make sure everyone was safe, and that wasn't happening here with children.
That was yeah, and that was way before. This is like the early 90s. This is way before any stuff. Like it was just like that was the way. It was always like super professional. Then when I went in the traditional corporate world, people were horrible. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. So this one company that you would think would be awful isn't. And then in the just generic corporate space, people are horrible human beings. So not surprising.
Yeah,
But do you recommend it? Do you recommend the
do.
show? It's
I do. To me, the biggest thing that came out of it is, you know, this idea of fame and the promise of fame to these children and how you can abuse that. And it, you know, we see it in the D Files. It's like it's the privilege to work for Disney, the privilege to
Right.
be on Nickelodeon series. And if you don't act and if you don't do what the director says or the people in charge says, you could lose it all. And that's what a lot of these kids, these children were dealing with because they were paying the bills for their families at this time. And if they said no to doing something that Dan had requested, they could have been kicked off the show. And in fact, kids were kicked off of the show because of that. Kids were
Wow.
kicked off because their parents expressed concern over what their children were doing on camera. And they were kicked off, and they, you know, and it's this power that happens that that is just rampant in Hollywood, and we're seeing it come to fruition now for purely political reasons.
Right. Well, it's a hard thing for me to watch. I'm happy that this has come out. What's sad is that whatever I'm sure that there are adults now that have memories of watching Nickelodeon when they were a kid, and that's all been dashed. It's like another thing completely destroyed. You know, the magic is gone.